Today, we will be looking at a comparison of a couple Aramaic dialects, namely Syriac and Targum Aramaic. This emerged from a question that was asked and brought to me: how similar is Syriac to Judeo-Aramaic? So, one of the reasons why this question might be asked is because certain academic institutions, churches, synagogues, different places of learning where one may have access to Aramaic may only have access to certain types of Aramaic. And I had previously done a comparison of Syriac with Biblical Aramaic, but I thought this is good to do another comparison with the Aramaic of the Targums. So, many places out there that offer Aramaic may only offer one or the other. And even if they offer both, they may not be, there during the time that a student is studying, right? Or they may not be accessible, or there's any number of reasons why Aramaic may only be taught in a certain form or other. And so this question is aimed at helping answer people who may have interest in one dialect, but only the other is available. And so, it's worth exploring right now. Firstly, I would say the systems are different with regard to the writing systems themselves. It's the same alphabet, but one is in cursive and the other is in block letters. I've done a video on this already. You can see it right here. I encourage watching it just to see how the letters compare to one another, because once you kind of calibrate toward one alphabet, it's not so daunting, right? It's not like, okay, I'm not learning a whole new writing system. I'm learning a new um, font face or typeface. This is one of the things I messed up on, and a commenter reminded me these are called faces. So thank you for that. I forget your name. But Syriac and Hebrew just have different font faces or typefaces. And if you look here, the top three are sort of the three major ways in which Syriac is written. And on the bottom is just square Aramaic, what we call Hebrew sometimes, Kitav Ashuri, as it's called, the Assyrian writing system. It's the Assyrian usage of Aramaic that developed this style. So, in some ways, they look a little different, but in other ways, you can see, well, that's just a cursive version of what I already know from this other alphabet I know. And even students of Syriac, maybe they learned Surto or Swadaya or Strangele or something like that, and they haven't made the jump across all the different alphabets. Once you calibrate your eyes to it, they're not that different, okay? And you can see, oh, okay, this is the same alphabet, but it's just a different hand or a different reason for writing it in a certain way. So that's the first difference. It's not very hard. It takes a day at most. Okay, well, maybe it takes some people longer than a day, but it's once you learn it, it's easy to cross train and learn the others. Now, I want to take a look at a couple of verses from Exodus, just because it's pretty simple. And we can look and see how these dialects compare with one another. So go ahead and read the Syriac first, followed by the Targum. وهولن شماهد بني إسرائيل وعال مصرين عم يعقوب gvar بيت عال. And now Targum Onqelos. وإلين شماهت بني إسرائيل دعلو لمصريم إم يعقوب gvar v'anash بيت عالو. So on the first slide, we see that everything looks pretty much the same except for these green things. Those green things, this light or bright or fluorescent green, that is noting extra material that's not in the other version. But these are both in the same Aramaic. They're mutually intelligible. So it's to let you know that otherwise the blue and the light red are effectively the same. They do differ in some respects. So looking at our first word for these, holein or elaine, the difference is a hey in Syriac versus an aleph in Targum Onkelos. They kind of sound the same. Our next is the plural for the word names. And there we just see an olaf at the end in Syriac and a tau or tav at the end in Targum Onkelos. Next, we see that the Dalet is the same, but of course, there's an extra one when it comes to Bnei Israel. And Israel, while we're looking, has a different spelling in the Syriac. There's an aleph in front of the word. And so that's basically the difference between saying Israel versus Yisrael. Are you pronouncing the E sound as a vowel or a consonant? If you're pronouncing it as a vowel, it's going to follow an Olaf. If you're pronouncing it as a consonant, there will be no Olaf in front. It'll just be the Yod. Our word for Egypt is the same. There is a difference, though. Targum Onkelos uses the Hebrew spelling with a mim at the end, and Syriac uses a nun. This is just the dual form. So the two Egypts, right, Upper and Lower Egypt. And so what looks like is happening in Targum Onkelos is the word that is known from Scripture for Egypt is placed in Targum Onkelos. And that's a feature you'd see a difference between Hebrew and Aramaic, right? The plural mim versus nun. Okay, let's move on to Exodus 2:1. Again, basically the same with a couple divergences here in style. Now, these are known in both forms of Aramaic. It's just Syriac stylistically is a certain way, Targum Onkelos is a certain way. We'll go ahead and read the Syriac first. Wazal Gavro min Beth Lewi, Wansav lebeth Lewi. And Targum Onkelos reads, Wa'azal Gubra mith Beth Lewi, Winsiv Yathbeth Lewi. Again, the green parts are Aramaic in both languages, but divergences. And we see there is a small difference in the word take, that is to say, took for a wife, right? We have nsab and nsiv. So the difference is a yod in the Targumic spelling. We also see the word for daughter in Syriac is spelled in the plane, and in Targum Onkelos is spelled defectively. But Syriac has the resh tliktho here, so the R sound is not pronounced. It would be Lewi. So the pronunciation is recorded in Targum Onkelos. The full spelling is recorded in the Syriac Pshito. And now let's just look at Exodus 2:2 to wrap up. I mean, we could spend all day reading these texts, but really this is a comparison video. And maybe we'll do a scriptural study on Exodus at some point. Go ahead and read the Syriac verse. Uvathnath atto uyildath bro rahzate the shafiru wachite lotho yarhain. And now Targum Onkelos. Adiyat itta wiledath bar wathzath yathe aretavu wat marte thalatha yarhin. Our word for woman is again the same. However, we have the difference between a nun and a yod in the two dialects. We have the emphatic spelling in the Syriac and the absolute spelling in Targum Onkelos for son. So we have an olaf at the end of bro, but we don't have that at the end of Targum Onkelos. Now, for the verb, and she saw him, basically it's the same, but the form in Syriac uses a pronominal suffix, and the form in Targum Onkelos uses a direct object with a pronominal suffix attached. And then, of course, there's the word choice when it comes to shafir and aretao. We do see a difference in the word he. Syriac is just hewaw, but that's going to be hewaw aleph in Targum Onkelos. Thus far, we've kind of looked at two dialects of Aramaic that, if you know them, they're mutually intelligible. If you don't know some things, it could look like you're learning new vocabulary, you know, the spelling conventions don't always match. That's actually not such a big deal. And if you think about English, just take American English versus British English. And I made up this sentence. I'm sure you guys can think of a better sentence. Go ahead and post them in the comments. Just differences between American English and British English. They're not two languages, right? We understand each other. If we compare American English versus British English, take a sentence like the American English: the guys wore the color red in the city center in support of their favorite soccer team. Now you have on the British side, and this will be generated by a British accent: the lads wore the color red in the city centre in support of the favourite football club. how different is it? There's different word choice, right? So we have the word choice like guys versus lads, soccer versus football, team versus club. But then we have spelling differences like color, center, and favorite. So we can understand, we know if someone's saying lads and they're talking about soccer as football, maybe they're not from the United States. Maybe they are from jolly old England. If someone is speaking the other way around, okay, well, those are a bunch of Yanks, right? Those are people from the US. And where do Canadians lie? That's the real question, right? Canadians get a little bit of both. They get British spellings with the sort of American dialects. But in any case, I would say if you have the opportunity to study Syriac and you want to study Jewish Neo-Aramaic, but there's no availability, take Syriac. And vice versa. If you want to study Syriac, but the only thing around is biblical Aramaic or, Targumic Aramaic, anything, go ahead and take the Aramaic you can, because it's going to make the crossover that much easier. You're learning just a variant rather than something way off. Okay. Yeah, there are different words. I mean, different people in different places use different words, but that's even the case in one's own country, right? So, all that to say, I encourage anyone interested to take whatever's around them, to study whatever's around them. If you find a good book and you just want to get started, grab it and learn. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and leave some feedback. Do the algorithmic duties like, share, subscribe, and thanks for watching.